So my next project that I'm going to be doing is a commissioned art piece for a client of mine, also a friend. So what it is that they're looking for is a kind of a graffiti feel. Well, she didn't actually ask for the graffiti feel. I kind of suggested it. She really liked the idea. And one of their favorite songs is Out of the Blue by Neil Young, out of the album Rest Never Sleep. So I have the songbook here with the music notes and everything. So I am going to use some of the music sheets to put onto the wall. I also have some great decoupage paper that looks like brick from Roycycled, and that's this one here. And there'll be that involved. There's going to be some Patina paint, Rest Never Sleeps, involved, so follow along. So the first thing I'm going to do is start by giving the wood panels a coat of the Boss primer by Dixie Belle. I'm not worried about stain blocking. I just want to have a white background so that the paper, when I decoupage it on, shows better. It's more of a solid look. Now that I have them all coated with the primer, one coat, I'm going to see how they look. I'm going to let them dry. I'm going to see how they look. I might put a second coat on, but I don't think we're going to need to. It's given pretty good coverage. And then I'm going to put the decoupage on, and then I'm going to go from there. So my next step for this art piece is working on the letters. So I'm placing them out and figuring out where they all are to go. And I'm going to now scuff sand them, clean them, scuff sand them, and get them ready for paint. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm going to clean and sand. I'm using White Lightning by Dixie Belle, which is a mixture of their powdered White Lightning and water. And it's a degreaser. So I'm just going to give these a quick wipe down. I'll rinse them, and then I'm going to scuff sand them. So the one thing I have been trepidatious on is the letters. I know I want them to have rust on them. That is a given. I love patina paint, and anytime I have an opportunity to incorporate it into my work, I try to. So, but I also want to add some of the bright pinks and like a bright blue, and to pick up on some of the colors of this paper. And if I don't like it, if I don't like the letters, you try again. You can sand them down and you can start over. So. Okay. I have wiped that off because as I was doing it, I decided that I wanted to add some gravel road. So I'm actually going to paint the bottom pink and add the gravel road on top and give it a spray and allow it to kind of drip down and give it a kind of cool look. That's Phoebe. Okay. Wipe the cat hair off and start again. Okay, I am happy with this. I'm liking the way this is coming together. And then I'm going to add rust on the top. So the next step in this art piece is I'm going to decoupage on the Roycycled papers, this brick pattern onto the wood. What I've done is I've laid it out, I've overlapped it a little bit so that the brick pattern looks like it's mostly matched up. What I've done is I've spritzed the paper so that it helps stretch it out. And this is something that Royce herself recommends doing, and it hopefully minimizes the amount of wrinkles that can happen sometimes when you're applying decoupage. Okay, so I left these overnight, this paper overnight to dry, to allow the glue to dry before I started separating this process. If you start trying to cut it while the paper is wet, you're at risk of causing the paper to rip or fray, which you don't want, especially after you take your time of getting a nice smooth finish. So some of the spots, the glue dripped between the pieces of wood, and that's going to be a bit more of a challenge to get them apart. Ah, look at that. I'm thinking I'm going to go in from underneath. All right. 6 down, 3 to go. So one of the ways you want to finish off the edges after you have, shoot, I'm gonna make sure these are lined up properly. I may have messed this up. Yeah, you want to make sure you keep your brick pattern in order. I gotta number these. Anyways, one of the best ways to finish off the edges is I'm using a sanding block. This is an 80 grit. And you'll see there's like excess paper. So you're gonna use the sanding block and in one direction, go against the paper to just sand it off. Okay, now that I have that all sorted, what I'm doing is I'm going through and I'm kind of feeling along the edges and the corners to see if there's any raised paper that didn't get fully glued down. So this one right here is a slightly raised. So all I'm doing is I'm going in with my finger and I'm just putting the decoupage on both sides, and then I'm smoothing it down with my finger. No need to get a brush out again. These are just small areas. So I've had a couple of those, but that was an easy fix. So we're at my most favorite part of the process, and that is working on putting patina on these letters. I'm going to show you the process on how to do that if you've never used the Dixie Belle Patina line before. This actually has real iron in it. You want to make sure you give it a good shake because the iron deposits will fall to the bottom. So shake, shake, shake till your heart's content, and then once you've shook, then you're going to go in and you're going to give it a good stir, stir, stir to make sure you lift all of the iron deposits from the bottom and get it really incorporated into the paint so that you get your best desired look. Now that I have it good and mixed up, I'm going to go in with a chip brush. The reason I'm doing this is because this paint is quite hard on your brushes, so the chip brush is going to, the chip brush or the foam brush are going to get tossed once I'm done. And this is a two-step process in regards to the paint. So what you want to do is you want to apply your first coat of the iron paint, and you can keep it bumpy, you can smooth it out. I kind of like to give a bumpy look because rust does tend to get all crusty and corroded looking. And you're going to apply it on, I'm trying to give it a dripped look to apply this paint. And once you've got it applied, you have to let it dry completely, and then you're going to go in with the second coat. All right, so I've let these dry. It's now time to put a second coat on. So when you're applying your second coat of the metal paint, you want to make sure, again, shake it really well, give it a good stir to make sure the metal bits are emulsified and stirred into the paint. Apply it over the other coat that you put on, and while it's wet, you're going to give it a spritz with your preferred color of spray. For the iron, for it to go rust, you want to use the green spray. The key is working fast enough to allow the paint to stay wet. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a couple of letters at a time, and then I'm giving it a spritz. And now we wait. You want this to dry. I'm gonna leave it for good. I'm actually gonna leave it overnight. It's 4 o'clock right now, Toronto. This is the fun part. Watching the process, watching them rust up. So next order of business, I'm back to the wood panels, but the first thing I'm gonna do is I am going to number the backs of them, because I want to make sure, absolute sure, that I keep them in order so that the brick pattern matches up. So what I'm doing next is I've got this paper, also from Roycycled Papers. I like that it's got all these colors in it. Think of a wall where you're walking down a street in the city, depending on what city you live in. You'll find walls, like construction walls, etc., where there's all sorts of posters and just stuff plastered and glued onto the walls. And then you'll see that they've been torn. People have torn them off. So that's kind of the look I'm trying to emulate without it looking like too grungy, but kind of fun. So currently I am just putting some of this cute paper on to the wood panels, because I want to give a look of ripped paper. Anyways, so that's what it is. So this is a couple of hours after I finished painting and spraying, so you can still see there's some wet spots. And here it is after about 20 hours. It has dried perfectly, in my opinion. You've got some of the dark showing through, some of the really rusty, lighter orange areas. Yeah, it looks good. So now I'm back in studio, and I realized on Friday when I was working, I really got carried away working on this piece and forgot to film some content. So I'm gonna flip the camera and I'm gonna quickly show you what I've done, so that if you decide you want to emulate something similar to this, you kind of know the steps that I've taken. So here we go. So here we are. The steps you have seen are the brick decoupage being added on, the letters over there being painted and patinaed, and then I've got these letters that I've cut out. What I did is I cut them out with a piece of, with canvas, actually, like a vinyl canvas, and I then decoupaged them with the leftover brick print, so that when I added the paint, and I just loosely painted it because I wanted it to look like a brush stroke, if that makes sense, you can see the brick pattern is still showing through, so that when they are glued onto here, it's going to look as though it was painted right onto the brick. I also used Graffiti artist grade spray paint. I don't have the brand, but I will share that. And it dries really quick. So if you're using a stencil, I am not a graffiti artist, so I didn't have the guts to just do it freehand. I bought a stencil that had some music notes and a guitar, a flaming guitar on it. So I spray painted these onto here as though it was done in graffiti art. And I also used some of the sheet music that I bought off of eBay, and it was Neil Young's Rest Never Sleeps original playbook. Well, it's not an original, but it was like an original print from 1979 of his lyrics and his music sheets. So if you were a guitar player, you could do it. I added this. This is actually cut out of the playbook, Rest Never Sleeps. And that, hence the reason why I did rested letters. It just made sense. So I'm going to show you now the process of gluing these things down. And the next two steps, or the next step I have to take, is to glue on the block letters and to also freehand paint onto these two canvases the word to, T-O. Pattern going on. I've got block letter, block letter, block letter, block letter. Then I've got these cutouts all in black going diagonally. And then the last two are kitty corner to one another, is the word to. All right, so I've got my decoupage, and I am going to work on gluing this stuff down. So I have the sheet music glued down. Now it's the letters. So I have all of the letters glued down, not the block letters, but I have the cut out letters that are black glued down, the 3 tiles. And the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Mod Podge to glue to top coat the rest of these panels, because the ones that I did the letter, they got an extra coat as I was making sure that they were glued down. And I'm going to use it now to top coat the other panels with the Mod Podge glue. Of graffiti art, when they do their letters, they make them look like they're popping out. So I'm going to use a white acrylic marker that I have. Well, it's a white acrylic paint in a marker form, and I'm going to add some highlight to the edges. Gluing the block letters onto the boards. I'm going to use this glue, E6000. It works really well. It's a transparent glue, so if a little bit bleeds out, you're not going to notice it, and it cures very, very well. Down to the final steps, the final step of this project, and that is painting the sides of the wood panels. And what I've decided is on the Gravel Gray by Dixie Belle Paint. It's a nice kind of dark, kind of brownish gray, taupey gray, and it works well and complementary to the brick pattern on the front. This is it without the paint, so you can see the difference. It just finishes it off nicely. I had so much fun creating this. I hope you learned a lot of tips and tricks on how to create something like this yourself. And keep in mind, it doesn't have to have this grungy look. You can do fun colors for a child's room. There's so many options. There are so many things that you could do creating this same look. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.